Welcome into 11 Personnel, presented by Monticello Bank. Nick Roush and Adam Luckett here. Dishing on the latest in the middle of a busy recruiting season here on the KSR YouTube channel. If you aren't subscribed yet, please do. Just go ahead, hit that button. Help us get to 50K. We're so close. So close. And it would help our buddy Stephen Peak out a lot if you help get us over that threshold. So don't wait any longer. Hit subscribe. Make sure you know every time we're going live, because you never know when we might need to pop off. There's a lot happening. It's a busy time. For the third straight day, Mr. Luckett, we got a commitment. 3 commitments in 3 days. I believe that's 6 now since we got the news that Vince Marrow is leaving for Louisville. So it looked like Kentucky was stuck in a rut, and that rut would get deeper without Vince. But they're going on a little run here. They're stacking up recruiting wins.
Yeah, 7 commitments in 9 days. Prince Jean committed 9 days ago, and then they've added 6 more players since then. So, right, I think the big takeaway here is after a season, and in a portal season where their portal class was just like that whole thing I thought was weird. It was just weird because people didn't know how to feel about it, right? Because so many players were leaving off the team. You got all these players coming in. It's like, who are they recruiting? Things are happening really fast. So then you have like kind of this, once that is in the fold, then you had kind of this lull. You know, I think you had the spring portal, but I think generally speaking, a lot of people were negative about what happened then. And then you've gotten into this and nothing was happening, right, for a while.
Very long time.
So finally, some of these guys that are getting on campus, they're closing on. And so that what we have them with now, I believe, Nick, is 8 total commits, 7 in 9 days. I think probably going to see a couple more coming. Just from a volume standpoint, it was really important that they're on track to me to probably have 12 to 13 guys when the season starts. So when you consider they'll probably add 5, 6 more, they might lose a player or two. Probably maybe not going to be the biggest class, but they're kind of in at 17, 18, 19 range, which would be lighter than what they've normally done, but it's not far off. Or I think we were getting close to a situation was, are they really going to have like a 12-man class here? So I think they've kind of avoided that. And now that they're checking this volume box, I think we're getting close to shifting into kind of what they added, what the positions they need to add. We're still kind of sorting through all of that, and we'll have a clearer picture post 4th of July. But right now, this is where they are. They've got some momentum. We'll see what they can do with it. And there's the one big fish out there that we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Definitely. But to your point, just from a pure number standpoint, at least they will be in the right ballpark. Where I do think, it's probably a lucky number 13 in the summer months, and then that gets, up to maybe 17 or 18 once we get closer to signing day, just depending on how things go during the season. But there were some worrisome signs, but they are starting to stack up some commitments. We're going to talk about those players, who could be next, and much more. But I do need to remind you about our friends at Monticello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. And at Monticello Bank, it's where people matter, and it's what's kept them in business for more than 125 years across the Commonwealth, serving communities all over the state. You can visit them online very conveniently at nbcbank.com. You can also just go to one of their branches. I believe it's 20 branches in 14 different counties across the state where you can go in, check out the rates for whatever your personal business may be. Whether it is business or you need to find a home loan, or maybe you want to get a little check on the HELOC, your home equity line of credit, see what you can do to put to work with
lights are flickering here.
Bank.
So if I disappear, I did just fall off the face of the earth. The lights are flickering here, just so you know.
We've got some storms coming across the Commonwealth. I'm actually up visiting my in-laws up in Ohio, spending a long week up here. Kind of doing the reverse Luckett, who was down in Florida with his for the week before. But we had the lights go out earlier on us, and I was like, am I going to have to do a podcast by candlelight? Like, how's this going to work? But we're good to go for now. Hopefully it holds out, and hopefully everybody stays safe tonight. And once again, shout out to Monticello Bank, presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Let's talk about some of the guys, and I guess let's just start with the most recent one because that was a nice little surprise right before the show. And I gotta say, off the jump, I think this was like you in the last cycle, but in this recruiting cycle, man, I've just had the worst timing ever.
To me, it was a portal. I didn't get I didn't sign up for the memo that everything had to happen around dinner time. It feels like every commitment happens between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. And even last night, I think it was like 7:15 when Max Mooring committed.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently all the news has to break between 4 and 6 when most people are driving home from work.
Yeah, and if it's more like 5 to 7, that is like the 2 hours that we kind of need to bank as dads to just like get everybody rounded up, maybe, take them to T-ball, get them fed, whatever it may be. So we're also in the middle of potty training, and I believe it was Tilson. Tilson was it was
like a 5:15 announcement or something.
And it was just a catastrophe at my house at the time. There was poop everywhere, kids crying, like boiling water on the stove. And I just looked down and I've got 24 unread messages in our KSR group chat. I'm just like, why is everything at once? So I was at least relieved that tonight, Delvecchio Alston II, Deuce is loose. He committed. And I was at my computer. So I think for the first of the 8 or 9, I had the count right in front of me. For the first time, I actually was ready to be able to write about this one. Although I don't have a lot out there on Deuce. I was hoping to find some stats. He's only ranked by 24/7. Like, this is a guy who, as you'll see with some of these commitments, not the most high-profile players, but he does play for one of the bigger football programs in the state, Hewitt-Trussville, 7A. If you remember Paul Tyson, Bear Bryant's grandson that Kentucky recruited, ended up at Alabama before bouncing around. He was at Hewitt-Trussville, so it's a big school where he's the starter there, and he's a bigger back, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He committed to Kentucky tonight, first running back, and there for a while, it was looking like, oh man, I don't really know what they're going to do at running back because Amari Thomas Clemens was one of their top guys. That went off the board. I know Jay Bolward tried to get Carson Baker. He recruited him a lot a year ago, but went off he ended up committing to Florida. Yeah. So there was a lot of guys on the board, and you're wondering, all right, you got to get at least one a class. Where are they going to find one? And they made a move to get Deuce Delvecchio Alston. Delvecchio, that's a fun name. Delvecchio. He announced his commitment tonight. What do you think about the addition?
Yeah, I'm going to have a film room up on Austin, but I'll just read my notes to you good people here. 200 pounds, flashing running back, looked like a zone runner to me. Decisive, kind of a spin tackle breaker. I think when you watch him, it's not necessarily the power and bowling over people and running through tackles, running behind his pads as much as you want to see, but I thought he had good pace, vision, feel. And I wouldn't say breakaway speed, but enough speed there to make 10-yard runs, 20 to 25-yard runs. So a bigger back, again, small. Minnesota was the only other power conference really in on him. I think Virginia did offer, but never got a visit lockdown with them. And then Memphis and South Florida were heavily involved here. I'll be interested to see what this means for the other backs. Are they? To me, Nick, I know Sir Paul Cheeks has a lot of fans.
He's Jesus in cleats. How could he not have a lot of fans?
He's a smaller back, right? Yeah. Austin's going to be a 205, 210, 215 tailback. Mm-hmm. We can only go to the database, but the database has Cheeks as 170, 175 pounds. So,
and let's be candid here.
They need tailbacks.
Yeah. But only one of those guys has really worked out at Kentucky, and that was Boom. They had some other little guys, but if you got to get speed, and that's the only place you can find it, go get speed. He's currently on his official visit, and and I believe it's West Virginia and Virginia Tech.
Mhm.
Virginia. Okay, all right. It's all Virginia schools. I didn't want to get one mixed up.
Yeah. The whole running back conversation, though, is going to come back to Evan Hampton.
Yeah. Why
Evan
didn't you go
Hampton
get
camped
him?
here last
Mm-hmm.
summer, recorded a blazing 40 time, was the talk of one of the first camps last summer.
He was committed to play baseball at UK at the time.
And then whatever happened, it seemed like Kentucky kind of didn't go after him gung ho.
Yeah.
Just
Sounds like the running back coach wasn't in love with that running back.
So that to me, that's going to be the conversation about this running back class in a couple of years. And like they lost their two guys last year, right? You look at that room, it's got a transfer, Jamarian Wilcox, Jason Patterson, Tavani Mizell. And then you've got nothing after that. And so it's not like in dire straits, I would say. McGowan's probably the only one, we'll see in the portal era, but he's the only one in the senior classification in that room. So it's not like necessarily you need to go out and get two guys, but you have to think at least one guy is going to leave outside of McGowan in the portal era. So getting two here would make a lot of sense in this class.
I'd say, too, that Kentucky is usually all in on getting a portal running back as well. So
seems that way.
Yeah,
that quarterback, yes, yeah. Seems that way. And tackle.
I actually had some people tell me some good things about Tavani Mizell, but like kid just can't stay healthy. Like it's like one thing and then it's another. So hopefully he can get healthy. Maybe we'll get to see him do some stuff in camp. But Deuce is the latest commitment. In somewhat similar fashion, Max Mooring, I don't want to say drew a lot of questions, but like, let's be real. Kentucky got a kid who was unranked by pretty much everybody, who had a lengthy offer sheet that was filled with Ivy League schools. Central Florida also tried to get in on him late. But like Max Mooring's a guy who I actually kind of like when I put on the tape a little bit more of what he could potentially become, more so than with the running back Deuce. Like Mooring moves well for his size, 6'2", 210, something like that. I know you had that track time that was pretty decent in the 100 for his size. But like when you watch him operate in a football field, you're like, okay, this guy works. And I think that's what happened over at UK because they were recruiting one of his teammates up there at Malvern Prep, whose name escapes me.
Jackson Samuels Ford.
Yeah, which I guess it feels like he's trending towards Penn State.
Yeah, Ohio State, USC are also involved. That one's trending away from Kentucky. Yes,
but they got him on campus, and it sounds like they were watching film on the one guy, and they kept seeing Max Mooring make plays. You say, okay, well, this guy, he's clearly got something going on between the ears if he's getting Ivy League offers. He's a good athlete for his size. Like, this looks like a guy that could work for us. And, whenever the Vince news hit like it, I got on the horn with Andy Stables on the radio show, and he pointed out, like, we don't know how valuable a Vince Marrow type is in the rev share era, but if you have good evaluators, then it can work. So, like, if Max Mooring, if your evaluation is right, then you can get back to what you were in the early successful years of the Mark Stoops era, and that's finding those diamonds in the rough, the guys that got overlooked by other programs who end up becoming multi-year starters for your program.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. There's two things I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
One, Mooring, I'm very interested to see where he ends up, like where the rankings are on him in November, December.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the type of recruitment that Kentucky used to do a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
First power conference school, issue an offer. Others slowly start to follow suit.
Yep.
You win a recruitment, a guy gets ranked higher than he was when you got him. So like being early to the party, kind of what you're mentioning in the evaluation process. Identifying talent and sticking him in and fitting him in your system. To me, like I watched Max Mooring. He's very much like a space player right now. He's good and active in space. He's a good athlete, has range. can cover sideline to sideline. Looks to be like a natural player in coverage. We have him listed at On3's database at 6'3", 215. I think at the point of attack, you want to see him show a little bit more power and force. But I think it's going to be really important for him to add weight. Like, this is a guy, to me, with his athleticism and his just frame. If he adds weight into that frame, I think Kentucky could really have something with him. Now, right now, with Malvern Prep up in Pennsylvania, he's kind of playing this Sam, like almost like a hybrid nickel position.
Yeah.
At least he did as a junior.
He's in coverage a ton.
But
that kind of hook curl.
Yeah. But to me, I think the move is probably going to be, at least what I think, especially when you consider the modern construct of current football, it's probably to put 20 pounds on him, play him at Mike, and get that athleticism in the middle of your defense with what I think they're banking on is going to be high IQ level, right?
Yeah.
When you got to start digging into Ivy League stuff. And he's the second one, I believe. The receiver from Texas, Davis McCray, also had an Ivy League offer. From a school.
That sounds right.
So that's interesting when you kind of think about it that way. But he's very much interesting. I know a lot of people are reacting to the unranked stuff. I would just say I get it, and I get why you just want to be critical and not give benefit of the doubt to them right now. But the rankings process is it's very fluid. And like, this kid plays for a strong high school, to my knowledge, in Pennsylvania. He's going to get eyeballs on him, specifically now that he's like committed to Power Conference school. And so he's going to get a ranking. He's not going to be unranked forever. He's going to get a ranking. And then I'm interested to see what schools enter the chat for him this season and just what kind of year he has. Because he's definitely like a project in a certain way. But you could see where I think why they would like him. And then my second point, Nick, was to the Staples point.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Before you get to that, I would just want to add something real quickly on the rankings. Like, Matt Ponatoski is barely a top 300 consensus player right now.
Sure.
Just because a lot of
two services have him as a 3-star still, and that will not be the case here in 2 months. Probably.
And like, a lot of these, like, this is when there's a lot of changes, is this time of year, because you kind of know guys early on, but not really. The summer and like that 7-on-7 season, right? Like, that's when they do all of the rankings updates and stuff like that. So like, that will be there's going to be a lot of changes, especially. I think the next round is right after the commitments, around 4th of July. That's when you get a lot of the updates, and water starts to find its level in a lot of cases. But to your second point, Mr. Lockett.
Yeah, I wonder if college football roster building, if we just have to start looking at it how we look at baseball teams. Some teams are just going to have the biggest payrolls, and if it's not able to be policed in this housing thing, which is probably the case in this rev share settlement, like, some teams are going to have bigger payrolls, but that doesn't mean that a team with a smaller payroll can't expect to win.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, to the evaluation point, that is really, really important. You just have to evaluate well, and that's why I say, like, this camp stuff, we kind of say it's not what it used to be, yada yada yada, but it still matters because you're still getting guys on campus, you're still getting to work with them, and you're getting to see players up close. And so for a team like Kentucky, it's something they have to be really good at. And guys like Max Mooring and Deuce Austin, you're going to have busts of players of their ranking and whatnot.
Yeah.
But a school like Kentucky, Nick, is always going to be defined by, to me, like, your lowest ranked recruits, like, what do you turn them into? When Kentucky is humming,
Bunchy Stallings is All-American and Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Like, those guys were lowest ranked in their class.
It's not even just that. Like, a De'Aaron Jackson, like, you found him.
He was the lowest ranked in the class who came up.
You found a multi-year starter, Carrington Valentine. You found a multi-year starter at cornerback. Like, you have to, like, for Kentucky, at the top of your class it's not going to be the same as the top of your class like Alabama.
No.
A lot of these other schools are fishing in different waters than you. So the top of your class, they're just not finished products. So it's not the same. There's some like risk, but it's the same with the bottom of your class. But you've got to be able to be really good and kind of that. I see something with this kid no one else is seeing, and we've got to hit on. You've got to hit on players like that. And so,
I mean, you use the baseball reference, and Staples actually did the Moneyball reference too. Like it's
yeah.
I mean, it's
yeah. And I also wonder too, like, is there going to be a thing like where okay, let's shed some payroll this year to like save it up to go up big another year, like kind of what Ole Miss did last year, where they just kind of went all in with that team last year.
Right.
And then like Texas, there's reports out there they're spending $40 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably more like 30-ish.
Yeah.
When like the top schools, people consider spending 20. Year over year, they're probably not going to do that, but they're motivated to do it right now because they're like that close to winning a title.
Right.
While Ohio State did last year, but they're going to come back down a little bit. But for a school like Kentucky, they're going to have to win in the margins. They always have to win in the margins. This is not any different. And it's going to be really important, like recruit and develop. Like this is the area where you got to be really, really good.
It gets me to one more piece, the development piece, because a lot of times it's like, well, are their evaluations off? There's a lot of guys in that linebacker room like it that had similar tools coming out of high school. There's so many Smith linebackers, Jaden Smith, Antoine Smith, like guys with some, I see some great athleticism there. Can they make him the player? Can they help him reach his potential? Some of those, like, we'll find out this year, like I don't, Grant Godfrey needs to be LB3,
right.
Like that's just, so there is a development piece side of it that, this can work if they're being developed properly. So,
right. Which gets us kind of back to the conversation last week.
Chicken or egg. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just how much was there a tear in just the organization and people pulling in different directions? Is that totally solved now? Or is there still issues?
Yeah. Let's get to the next commitment that happened. I believe it's only 3. It's at least only 3 this week. And that happened on Monday when Messiah Tilson gave us I got to say, been doing this for 10 plus years. First time I've seen the triple fake out. At least the triple fake out in that, sometimes a guy might go to grab a hat. This dude had 3 shirts on. He was like, it was his sauna gear. He had his sweatsuit on. He first had, actually I take the back 4 because he took off a Q-zip, had a Wisconsin shirt on, then took off the Wisconsin shirt, had a Rutgers shirt on, and then finally the Kentucky commitment, Messiah Tilson from Indiana, which hasn't been
Illinois.
Illinois. Another place.
Cameron Miller's Indiana, yeah, but
okay, but
pretty much Chicago, but yeah,
we don't have a lot of those. You don't see a lot of those. I think the only Indiana people have been transfers. David Rayner was an Indy guy. Lonnie Johnson was Gary, which Hammond is basically Gary.
Kendrick Gilbert.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one. I mean, they haven't had a ton in that area, so it's a little bit different. But this guy's got a lot of length and moves well. And I mentioned 2 of the schools that were involved in him, and there was one other Big Ten program. So, hey, finally, on the guys we get to, a pretty impressive offer sheet. Who, if there's enough juice there, it could certainly be worth the squeeze for Kentucky with Tilson.
Yeah, Tilson, along with Cameron Miller, were very much kind of like Kentucky inserting itself in a Big Ten recruitment. Not that dissimilar from what they kind of did early in the Stoops tenure, just going in Ohio and beating Big Ten schools for teams. Like this was very much, they beat a bunch of Big Ten schools for both Cameron Miller and Tilford. Since the commitment, he's already gotten a rankings bump. He's now Kentucky's highest ranked player in the class.
Boom.
He's now a 4-star prospect. To me, like Iowa was interested in a safety in the Midwest. Iowa hosted him on an official visit.
Mm-hmm.
I almost didn't have to watch the tape. I almost was just like, okay, this guy's probably good. Like, bring him in here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you turn on the tape, I think you see range, sideline to sideline. You see a physical tackler, and you see a guy with speed. He was a playmaker on offense for them. I think you like both that. You like that kind of two-way skill set there for him, and you can see it with him. I think he might be their safest bet in the class right now, to me, to come in and be a good college player.
And here's the thing is Frank Buffano might be, among the hardcore folks on the internet who follow recruiting, might be the most criticized of the assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Shockingly, Mike Stoops gets more of a pass than I'd expect. I'd expect him to come down harder on Mike Stoops, but Buffano, he gets a ton of crap. But like, I really like the safeties he's brought in the last few classes, and I mentioned Godfrey earlier, but Cam Dooley's going to be that this year, right? Like that was a late flip in the class from Missouri, who had a ton of athleticism. I really liked what I saw from him in spring ball. He's going to be a redshirt freshman this year. And then Dylan Williams is a true freshman this year. Like that's 3 straight classes with guys where you look at it and you say, oh, yeah, this guy can be a good multi-year starter in the SEC. Now, we still got to let the cake bake some, but I do, like, Buffano gets a lot of crap, so we got to tip our cap to him when he's getting guys who looked apart, and then now it just ultimately comes down to what they become, how much they can produce once they start playing on Saturdays.
Yeah, it was a good recruiting win, and like Rutgers had kind of stolen some players from them before their visits, so it was nice. Rutgers was in on this one. A lot of people in the industry kind of lean Rutgers, and so this was a good win for UK.
It's also a pretty good win for you when you go to roback.com and you use promo code KSR on your first purchase, because you're going to get 20% off that first purchase with that promo code. And Roback, RHOBACK.com, they got the best gear out there, especially the summertime. You got your collared shirts. You're just regular. I like the regular ones too. This is not but like the Roback brand, it's got a nice neckline, great material, swim trunks, shorts, hats. They got gear for the ladies as well. The best gear in the business. It's like heavyweight but lightweight. Is that a good way to put it, like it? Because it's like there's something to it, but like you don't sweat through it. I wish I could describe it better, but just do yourself a favor. Go get some for yourself. Use that promo code KSR and get 20% off your first purchase at roback.com. Look, I don't know how much more you want to speak on some other recruits.
Yeah, there's just one more.
Yeah.
Just Cameron Miller, I think, is the only one we haven't touched on on the commitment list. I guess Jordan Crutchfield came later. Crutchfield's just went over Louisville, and he is kind of a cover 3 cornerback. Long, tall, big. Think you want to see some more physicality. Maybe not the top end speed, but he kind of fits the mold of what you kind of think of as a Mark Stoops cornerback. And then Cameron Miller, Nick, he's kind of got like a unique body type, almost like Deion Walker, really long arms, skinny like legs. A lot of the weight is in his midsection, but I thought was a pretty good athlete. Like one of his first plays on tape is him running 25, 30 yards down the field to kind of bulldoze a safety in the open field. And you can see some of the pass protection potential to me with him. Like I thought he was a really good athlete on film. For me, it's just like, can he get the play strength down there? But if he can, like if he can get in Kentucky's strength and conditioning program, to me, in my opinion, and add some of that kind of core strength that he's going to need, like I think Kentucky could really have something with him just because of his raw measurables and physical traits that he has. There's a lot of they're intriguing. And so to me, that one, like he's got legitimate left tackle potential, but he could also be one of those like massive right tackles you see all the time in the league, 6'6", 6'7", 330 pounds. So that one was an interesting, I think, addition for them just based off his raw physical attributes. He kind of I comped it in the or written up in the film room. He fits the Planet Theory kind of method, which is there's only so many guys like this big that can move like that. So like you got to take them. You got to try to, if you can get them, you got to take them. And so he's one, I think, you're going to have to fast forward 2 years down the road, but they could have something with him if it hits right.
And hopefully it does hit, because Kentucky took the wrong kind of hits in offensive line recruiting this week, because Louisville took 2 guys they were recruiting within 24 hours. And I know you noted that it almost felt like an either or with Cameron Miller and Charlie Edgewood, the Chattanooga offensive tackle. They get a commitment from him, and then they got a commitment from Benjamin Corha. He was expected to take a visit right now. He was going to have a midweek to UK, never made it. And you've seen Kentucky get a couple offensive tackles, but there's not any offensive guards in there. Not any OGs. And they got a big one with Dayron Parks on campus right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's from Florida. Florida State's prominent in that picture. If you're not able to get that guy, who's also going to Ohio State for an official visit. I mean, if Ohio State wants a guy, pretty good. So if you can't get him, then
Tyreek Jemison is a big one this weekend.
Yes, he'll be here this weekend. And who else is on his list like it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Ole Miss, North Carolina, NC State, Georgia Tech, and Kentucky.
So that's another position we are monitoring closely. But let's be honest, none of them are as big as the biggest position, and that's the quarterback, the gunslinger, Matt Ponatoski. Mentioned him earlier, but you just have the best timing with this guy, who not Mr. Baseball, Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Ohio in baseball and football last year. He led Cincinnati Mower to a state championship.
Well, state runner-up, yeah.
State championship game, close enough. But an outstanding quarterback. I think the 3rd highest ranked uncommitted quarterback right now in the country. And we mentioned him, a few weeks back, and there's other schools getting involved, but things are starting to break the right way this week, so much so that you've put an RPM pick for Kentucky to land, Mr. Ponatoski.
I did. I just think a lot of things are trending Kentucky this way, and this is a very, very unique recruitment. This is a guy we've been talking about for a year. I think I've even talked about on here how I went to camp and I was looking around am I the only one seeing this? What's going on here? This is not supposed to happen today. This guy is legit. So what's going on? And so since then, he didn't really blow up. He didn't blow up really till the season he had. Now, I think there was some reasons for that. He's a little undersized for the position, and I think there was a big thought that he was just going to be a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he rewrote the Ohio record books, passing yards, in a tough ass division conference, whatever they call it up there, where you're playing against good players, against well-coached teams. He threw for 51 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completed 70% of his passes, led his team to the state title game, and won Mr. Football, won every award. And I was listening to some 247 was out. I was into an interview. They were talking about Ponatoski, and they interviewed him and said, he basically has said, baseball comes easy to me. Football, it's like I'm drinking out of a, fire hose, paraphrasing.
Yeah.
The kid that just threw for 51 touchdown passes in Ohio said that. The kid I saw throw at the Kentucky camp to me, from my knowledge, I've been going to camp since 21. So this is my 5th year. I've seen a bunch of quarterbacks at these camps. I've seen guys that are starting right now in college. I'll say this again, that was the best workout I've seen, and it wasn't close. And then he goes and has the year he has. So I'm okay, at least I'm seeing it somewhat decently right. This kid is you can make the argument he would be one of the better prospects if they could get him, that they would sign if they can get him. He's going to be a top 100 recruit because I'm guessing he's probably going to light people's asses up again as a senior
Yeah.
at Moeller,
Well,
and he's doing well at Elite 11. So there's really a lot to like here, and it would be a massive win. And we've talked about how big of a year this is for Bush Hamden. Like, this would be a great way to start it, getting this guy in the fold. And there's the draft angle everyone wants to talk about. And Nick, if I had a nickel for everyone told me, he's probably just going to the draft online. So, have a night at Roosters. Let's just say that. So, yes, that's aware, but this is the NIL age.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
Yeah. So it's going to be him what he wants to do. But, the high school, going from high school to the MLB is not necessarily the most proven way to do it. There's, it just depends on what he wants to do. But if he commits to football, I think he can be a really, really, really good player for Kentucky. And then you start looking at that quarterback room. If he lands, and it's kind of like, hey, now, like, where's this been for a decade? Hey, now, there's some good stuff happening here.
It's funny you mentioned that interview with him where he talked about how football is hard to him because Charles Power, On3's head honcho when it comes to evaluating and ranking players, the way he described Ponatoski, who was the number 4 quarterback in his day one standouts, was that things come really easy to him. He was one of the most accurate and consistent players. And the part I think that is shocking in that for people like Charles Power, which that's a big event for him because you don't get to see a lot of these guys in person. This isn't basketball recruiting where they've got camps and Team USA training camps and they've got EYBL. Like, you don't get to see these guys actually work out next to each other very often. But a lot of people thought, like, well, Ponatoski, he hasn't done all this stuff.
Right.
All these other quarterbacks, they're playing 7-on-7. They're doing all this summer camp. He was playing baseball. So there was really he might be rusty. And you see the clips of him, and he really does look very casual and everything. But the ball comes out smooth. It looks soft, but it's a tight spiral. Like, he's a good-looking ball player. And on top of it all, I think just for Kentucky fans, there was always going to be the apprehension like, well, we missed our chance because you had him on campus early. He blew up. You didn't get it on the ground floor. Now Alabama and Oregon wanted him. But some stuff has been breaking Kentucky's way in that regard. Alabama, they flipped Iowa State quarterback. And then this weekend, he's staying out on the West Coast and visiting Oregon while Oregon's hosting another quarterback at Elite 11 for an official visit. So they aren't all in necessarily on Ponatoski. So all of that combined with his surprise visit, like you saw him last year, and then all of a sudden you stumble into Kroger Field and you get to see him again on Monday. So It does feel like some things are actually breaking UK's way for once this offseason.
Yeah, I think the weirdness of this, or the uniqueness, I should say, of this recruitment kind of has played in Kentucky's favor. Kentucky's kind of been involved with him for at least a year now, probably a little bit before he came to that camp last year. And then kind of these other schools have gone in a different direction. And to your point, he is unique because he's never done the private QB thing, right? He's never fully committed to this craft of playing quarterback. That a lot of, some of these kids start when they're like freshmen, right? In high school, not college. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going after. So, like, if he ever commits to that, like, how much can he grow within a 12 to 18 month period as a player?
Yeah.
He's also kind of a model for the let them play all the sports crowd, right?
Oh, and I love that. I'm right in that crowd. I've got the megaphone for that crowd.
And like there has been cases where like John Rice Plumlee played baseball all the way through. He played quarterback at Ole Miss, quarterback at UCF, played on both baseball teams. Kyler Murray did it for a time at Oklahoma.
Jameis
Simmons did it for a time.
Ole Miss is starting
Austin
quarterback
Simmons
this year.
is doing it right now.
He did at least 1 year of baseball, but I think he backed off that.
Yeah. So, but a lot of times, like Jameis, I think was that way. They play a year and then they back off. I don't know if you can be a starting quarterback, especially in Ponatoski's case, where
Yeah.
like the springs are going to be really important for him, kind of
Yeah.
in his, especially at quarterback in his
Right.
player development. Now Rice Plumlee he was going to like practice and then going to play baseball games. So maybe that's something you could look into. I think it'd be easier. Well, it wouldn't necessarily be easier for pitcher because your arm would have to rest, but it's going to be interesting how they kind of do
Right.
that because he's a top 15 player in the country. Like he's one of the best shortstops
Yeah.
in high school baseball. He can pitch too. I mean, he throws 94 to 97 on the mound. Like we joked a few weeks ago, like he's probably a scratch golfer, probably gonna play on the UK golf team.
Yeah.
He's just a freak athlete, but would be a big boom, and I'm really high on him as a quarterback because I think this guy can really play, and I think he could come in and kind of. I think we've talked about like can they just find the quarterback to elevate them as a program. This one has the feel to me of a guy if you get him and you develop him right, you don't skip steps.
You don't have 5 different offensive coordinators in 5 years.
He could be one that could elevate your program. That's just Adam Luckett's point of view. What I've seen from him.
I want to take this guy to a church picnic and watch him throw balls at the little stacked up bottles. I mean, this guy can just throw a ball wherever. Like that.
Probably balls 270.
I need him to get with some sort of trick shot guys and just throw this random ball and show us, make your magic. Because if there's nothing else, this guy, he can throw the ball around. He can sling it. Night 2 underway. I believe it's a 3-day event. Elite 11, is that correct? Like it? I think it's 3 days. I think like tomorrow is the
I
big,
think it's
like,
17th to the 19th. I think they'll be done like tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, it'll be the big sort of finale. So we'll have some more updates there on KS Board on the site. Steve Wiltfong, he spoke with them, had a lot of nice things to say about Bush Hamden. So we've got that over there on KS Board. If you aren't a member right now, and if you made it to this point in the show and you aren't on KS Board, like what are you doing? Because like that's where all of your Kentucky football recruiting intel is. Promo code UK1 and you're gonna get 2 months for $1. And look at we got a new deal now too that I saw where if you're an annual subscriber to KSR Plus, you also get a year of The Athletic for free. So, dude, we just got deals left and right over here. So sign up, make sure you're locked in. There's a very important date coming up, and I actually don't have it off the top of my hands, but it's next Monday. Next Monday is when the dead period officially begins. Dead period, no recruiting on campus, none of that sort of stuff. We're shutting it down. And that's when people will go into decision mode. So there's a lot more moving parts to get to that dead period, to try to put the icing on the cake, if you will, and really establish your foot, get a stranglehold on those players before they make their decisions. We're going to talk about some more who might be on commitment watch. But first, I need to tell you about our friend Andy Ludicky over at myperfectfranchise.net. Whether you're looking for just another stream of income or, you know what, I need to change my career path. Andy, he's a franchise consultant that's going to get with you to find out what your interests are, what you're passionate about, to where you can own your own business in the world of franchising. Contact Andy at myperfectfranchise.net or give him a call at 404-973-9901. It's risk-free. His services cost you nothing. He's going to hook you up to make sure you're on the right path at My Perfect Franchise. That's Andy Ludicky at myperfectfranchise.net. So like it, we have all of the final official visits are happening. We mentioned there's a handful of guys on campus right now. Surprise tight end from Michigan joined the fold. Lincoln Watkins, which was a nice little gem thrown in there when just days after we learned that Derek Shea is going to take over Vince Marrow's old position room.
Yeah, and this was a guy visited Florida officially the June 6th weekend. Florida ended up taking another tight end, so he's kind of there, I think. I mean, he's one to watch. I think Kentucky could close on him. They're in on him and Ben Mosley. Ben Mosley's from Alabama, but Mosley's more of a skinnier kind of pass catching first guy, where I believe Watkins, I'll still need to dig in, but he's more of the kind of prototypical size, potentially a wide tight end, inline tight end. And so I think he's definitely a name to watch here for Kentucky right now. And again, they really jam packed them in here, Nick, over these from
Friday,
from the 13th through the 22nd, and then every day in between almost. They've had official visitors in there. Ashari Charles was like a blue chip edge they had on campus. They've had a bunch of receivers: Dallas Dickerson, Larry Miles, Jafar Jean Noel, Duron Parks, and then Tyreek Jemison is coming this weekend. They've got some more cornerbacks coming. They jammed them in here, and so I think going on that commitment spree we've seen them go on, they're now in a position where they're going to be in decent shape, I think, heading into the year now from a recruiting kind of volume class standpoint.
Jaden Terry is the one that I'm intrigued by.
Yeah.
The cornerback from Georgia.
Absolutely.
He's a good ball player. That would be it's nice to get the last official visit before he kind of goes into decision making mode. But to your point, it does feel different because it's been 5 guys in, you send the 5 home the same day, 5 more guys come in. Like, it has been nonstop over the last 10 days. It'll end up being, I think, like 21 players over 10 days officially visiting campus. So quite a few here late down the stretch. And if you had a wish list, is there any one of the guys that in this last 2 weeks that you see like, okay, this guy will make me feel a lot better about the 2026 recruiting class if they can get him?
Yeah, I think if you get one of Jemison, Duron Parks, I think that'd be a significant deal to get you one of the guards there. Dallas Dickerson is a player I'm intrigued by, Nick, just because of his raw speed on the outside. This is like a legit 4'4", 40, 100-meter track guy in Georgia. The dude can absolutely fly. Oklahoma's making a big push for him. He's one I would definitely like.
Been all over the place too.
Yeah, it's been hard to get a read on. And then
I think last week, so he officially visited last weekend. There were 4 different places that reported he was going to officially visit to that school that weekend.
Yeah, it was a madhouse. Like good to see we're still keeping the wildness of recruiting alive.
All right.
Other one to me, I would watch some of these defensive linemen in here this week. They don't have any defensive linemen committed. They need to get some. Like, you look at Garrett Witherington, who's in here right now, who's said he's gonna make a decision after this Kentucky visit. Kentucky got the last visit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a plethora of power conference schools. Mississippi State, Penn State got him on for a visit. You look at Walt Frazier from Pennsylvania, I believe Philadelphia. He's coming in this weekend. Just visited Syracuse
City. He wears goofy suits.
Okay,
sits courtside.
That's the other one.
Yeah, sorry, wrong Walt Frazier.
That is the other Frazier.
They look so similar, I get them confused all the
time.
Yeah,
but this guy's got potential nose size, so that's always important to kind of address that position.
Yeah,
and then Ben Duncombe's the other one, was kind of similar to Witherington. I think the goal is probably to get one of them. Duncombe just visited Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and another school. He's from Texas, Austin Lake Travis,
which feels like a little bit harder to get.
Right, you feel like just location only. You feel like they have a better chance with a Birmingham kid, which is Garrett Witherington.
Yeah, Witherington's a pretty impressive guy too. Like, you're like, man, they kind of got him playing outside, but like, he's going to gain so much weight that you expect him to play more inside. But either way, it's been good that they've been able to stack up some recruiting wins. Hopefully we got some more around the corner. Back to Ponatoski real quick. He's not going to set a decision date, or if he does, like, he doesn't strike me as the type who's like, got like all the graphics and everything like lined up and is really there for the big recruiting process. So like, if you were to sort of put try to guesstimate a timetable, would you say that it's around that 4th of July window? Do you think we're going to have to wait much longer after he goes on this Oregon trip?
I think it'll be before then.
Okay.
I think the process is winding down. I think he's probably ready to get it over with. And whatever school he ends up with, they're going to want him to make a decision quickly.
Give them a shot in the arm in recruiting, especially for
Well,
a
just
speedy guy
like
like Dallas Dickerson, you know?
I think the consensus is this is Kentucky or Oregon. So you just want to know. Like if you're Oregon and you've got Bryson Beaver on campus this weekend, hey, yeah, like tell us what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, maybe would he do the quiet? And then the other scenario is he does the quiet commitment and waits an announcement. I don't get the sense that that's
Doesn't strike
going
me
to
as that
happen.
type.
So I think we're going to know. I thought there was a chance he wouldn't take that visit, but if he takes that visit, we're going to know. But I think Kentucky should know here. We might know by next week. Let's say that the 25th. I would say we know by next Friday, the 26th.
Okay. I just can't believe that Bryson Beaver is not officially visiting Oregon State. I mean, wrong Oregon school, buddy. You're a Beaver. It's in your name. How great would that look on the back of the jersey too? Just Beaver. Oh, in the NIL era, he'd be slinging some jerseys.
It almost makes it more perfect that he goes to Oregon, and it's just like shading his rival.
Do we know what conference Oregon State's going to be playing in?
They're in like this weird they're in independent essentially for one more year, and then they're in the Pac-12. Boise State's coming over, Colorado State.
I can't
and a
get
few others.
The Pac-12 and the new Pac-12 and the old Mountain West. I have no idea.
Well, they're still figuring it out. I think they might have just finalized it because they just added who did they just add that joined? I can't remember, but now they're to like 8 teams in the Pac-12.
Okay. I did mention earlier before we go, Derek Shea did get promoted as the Kentucky tight ends coach. Very much, I mean, hell, Luckett told you about this a week ago when we were chatting, but very much in the old Stoops playbook. He came over. I mean, it's very identical with the Scott Woodard Javon Bonite situation where this guy came with Hamden as a QC. Something happens and he has to get promoted over the summer. The difference is that Shea actually has experience coaching tight ends, which Woodward had no experience coaching wide receivers. So there's plenty of experience there. The people who played for him seem to really like him. I loved all the quotes from the LSU guys who are in the NFL. That was a nice touch to add to the announcement. So it's okay. Like the ship isn't getting rocked too much, and hopefully this guy knows his stuff because it's a pretty good tight end room he's inherited.
Yeah, and it's very much a Bush Hamden hire. Like this guy was sitting next to Hamden in the box during games last year. Like he brought him in to work with him again. Like it's very much a guy he trusts.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that, and he's got experience. Like he's coached tight ends at Marshall. He's been on multiple SEC staffs. He's a former offensive lineman, turned into a tight ends coach. It seems like he has kind of a run game specialty. Kentucky gave him a senior run game specialist, some type of title. So there's that there. So yeah, I think it's a, you could term this as a continuity hire.
Well, we got plenty of that going over. Lots of continuity happening at the Joe Kraft football training facility. Leggett, I think it's about time to go our separate ways. Do you got any final thoughts for our audience before we get the hell out of here?
I would just say that I don't think that this commitment wave they're on is done. I expect a few more. And then I think once we get past 4th of July, we kind of settle in and just see what they have. And then go from there and enter the season. Really, Nick, like to me, there's stages. This is the recruiting stage we're in. Mm-hmm. Once we get to like the week after 4th of July, we're in preseason. Yeah. Like it's Phil Steele season, baby. It's SEC Media Day season, and we get to talk about what's ahead. And so we're going to cover all this recruiting stuff, but it's almost preseason. And when preseason gets here, we're just like a month extended away from the season starting. So like this offseason is moving pretty quickly, and football's just right around the corner.
I mean, media days will be over on July 18th. It's June 18th, so like it's right around the corner.
Yeah, like we'll be in Atlanta here in.
I'm already practicing.
Eating queso at Stats here in 3+ weeks.
I'm ready to get after it. Sing. I don't know if the blue cowboy hat's going to make an appearance or not. Probably has to at this point. I think I'm contractually obligated, but looking forward to getting that ball rolling. But in the meantime, there's more recruiting to cover. We'll have plenty of it up on KSR Plus. We appreciate y'all tuning in. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.